transition is with us, and it's here to stay. Global economics, technological changes at the speed of light, and social values that are changing faster than any time in the past. To help guide you along your journey in this fast-changing life, the show with a purpose: to empower, to enlighten, to educate, and to entertain. The show that offers you a friend, a guide in the most transitional time in the history of the human race. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Steve Beaman.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to this edition of the Steve Beaman Show. And a wonderful, happy Mother's Day to all of the ladies out there who've been blessed with children. As a non-mother, I'd like to say thank you for giving me life. It means quite a bit. And so we are so happy to be with you. Carol and I have really worked to put a special program together for you this Mother's Day. Each and every segment, whether it's the Rubber Meets the Road news analysis, the Master Your Money segment, each of those has been geared toward the most special people in our lives, our moms and our grandmothers. So, Carol, happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you, Steve. It was a fantastic day with the family today, and it's always good to, have them take care of Mom a little bit. No breakfast in bed, though.
That's fun. I'm just glad that you've got your family with you.
It's wonderful. It is wonderful. And Steve, you know what? I was going through your wonderful Epic Times article where you can see that on stevebeaman.com, correct?
SteveBeamanShow.com.
SteveBeamanShow.com about the coming of age of these digital currencies.
Oh, man, we're going to jump right into the meat, aren't we?
Well, Steve, that almost sounds like, could this be the end of the dollar?
Well, this is really interesting. As we know, currency has what I'll call a specious value anyway. What is the value of the piece of paper you hold called a Federal Reserve note? It's not worth anything.
I trade those for shoes.
Well, that's because the vendor of the shoes that you have such a fancy for believes in a value to them. They believe they can take that and take it to the grocery store.
Right.
But there is no underlying value. Ever since 1972, I think it was, when Nixon took us off the gold standard, these paper dollars are worth really no more than that little piece of paper. So what's happened over time is with the coming of the digital age, a company years ago called Bitcoin came out with a process to create a scarce number of Bitcoins. Now, I want to go back a little bit. You remember Beanie Babies, right?
I sure do.
Right. Well, Beanie Babies in the 90s started trading for no real reason. They just began trading as currency.
What?
People were trading Beanie Babies for non-Beanie Baby things, right?
Okay, so like a barter system.
It's like a barter system, and that's kind of what the digital currencies are of Bitcoin. The reason I find it interesting is that in the last month or so, there was a very secret meeting on Wall Street.
Secret?
Secret. There's that word again.
Yeah, when it comes to secret
I know,
meetings.
well, it's obviously not so secret. I knew about it.
Well, you're an insider, no?
Probably true. So we're among friends. We'll tell everybody the inside scoop. But the point is, these insider bankers got together and said, can we use digital currency in some way to make global trade more effective? And it's legitimization to this concept of a Bitcoin or a digital currency, which really only value is based on scarcity. They have a mathematical formula that will only make so many of them.
How come they'll only make so many of them?
That's how they determine the value of it.
Well, that's law of supply and demand,
Exactly.
Business 101.
That's right.
So for me as a consumer, as a mom, what does this mean to me? How do I use these Bitcoins? How is it going to benefit me? How is it going to take away from me?
One of the problems we have in the show is always trying to make the rubber meet the road, right? What does it matter?
What does it matter?
The reality is the digital currencies don't matter a lot to most people. When they first came out, they were really popular within global trade that wanted to be anonymous. And sadly, that's the drug trade, the weapons trade, and the people trade. So governments around the world kind of started to crack down a little bit.
Okay.
But in reality, the advantage of a global digital currency is that when you go to Europe, for example, where now you have to convert dollars into euros, you wouldn't have to do that. A Bitcoin in New York is the same as a Bitcoin in Paris.
So does it hold? Because I know when I went to England, we had to do the pound,
Right?
The pound sterling.
What used to be a pound sterling.
Well, it was still the pound.
It's a pound. It's just not sterling anymore.
Well, it's not backed by sterling, but anyway, it's kind of like our gold standard thing. But
Right.
anyway, tell me, if I was to put $100 in Bitcoin, how do I convert that? What does that mean?
Well, there are a lot of retailers around the world who will directly take Bitcoin. Now, it's not a currency like you hold in your billfold. It's a credit on a computer. So you hold your iPhone up and you've got a Bitcoin wallet. And in that wallet would contain the Bitcoins that you've bought with dollars or with whatever your currency is. And when you go to a retailer who takes a Bitcoin, you just tap your phone on their credit machine and it takes your Bitcoins to them.
Wouldn't that be subject to breach, though? I mean, how safe is that?
It's about as safe as any banking transaction. So when you go to Chase Bank and you use your debit card or Apple Pay, it's all the same type of encryption technology. There have been a handful of cases in which Bitcoin dealers were found to be dishonest, but they were the second-tier dealers that you shouldn't be using anyway. So it's interesting to me because I think as you and I talk so much, we're entering transition, right?
This is a big transition.
It is, but it's a transition that will take place. This isn't an if, it's a when.
Can I get more information on this from thestevebeamanshow.com?
Absolutely. In fact, if somebody's really curious, they can write me at steve@stevebeamanshow.com, and I'll send them articles I've written about Bitcoin, and I'll actually send them some of the sites you can go where you can establish your own Bitcoin account if you want to do it.
Could you make money doing this?
A lot of people do. Bitcoins trade like anything else. When they came out, they were 1/100th of a penny. They ran up to $1,000 a Bitcoin.
I think we could do a whole show on Bitcoins, but
We probably could.
But there's something on the periodic table of elements. Could you tell me what the heck graphene is and why I care?
Let's get our science books out, right?
Right.
When we all went to school, we were taught that the periodic table of elements, and okay, everybody's scratching their head going, I kind of remember that, but it was two-dimensional. It had a vertical and a horizontal layout.
Right.
What we've discovered is that it's really 3 dimensions.
Okay.
And that each of those elements has an isotope or a variation of it. And in some research in England a few years ago, they found out that graphite, which is one of the materials, has an isotope of a single layer thick surface of graphite, and they call it graphene. And it has some literally world-changing properties. This is the stuff that's going to change the way you and I live.
More transformational
transition.
stuff. Okay, so what does graphene mean to me?
Graphene is a material that is lighter than aluminum, stronger than steel, a better conductor of electricity than gold. It is permeable only by water. So as a desalination program, very possible to put water throughout the world once we get into production of graphene.
Wow, and water is a very rare commodity. Good, clean water is a valuable commodity in many countries.
It is one of the big strategic problems. In fact, Forbes magazine just last week wrote an article about 2050 and how the world could really be in trouble because there's not enough water. Graphene is a possible solution to that.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But it's I think it really gets into the concept of super materials that, like technology, General Motors just came out yesterday and announced they're launching their first driverless taxi cabs within 2 years. We've talked about that.
We've talked about that. I still roll my eyes.
Well, it's middle class economies changing, right? And it's why this show was built, because we know people are going through these transitions. We know they need a friend. They need a trusted friend to talk to and say, hey, where do I turn? We want to inform them about all these changes. And I think graphene and these super materials and artificial intelligence are not scary when you understand them.
Well, I think you need to understand them, but they can be. I mean, artificial intelligence could be what happens when the machines start taking us over.
Well, we already do that. Let's go back to robotics in the 70s. When you go to steel mills or auto mills, they were run by robots. Even that far back.
But what happens when the robot has the button that can push the button and start controlling us?
There have been articles written in Scientific America that I read about that. And there is a side of science that's concerned that we give too much AI and these things will start to run us instead of we run them. Which, again, I want to go back to the purpose of the Steve Beaman Show. If we can educate enough people about these things, maybe we'll be ahead of the curve.
Well, as a mom, and it being Mother's Day, I certainly wouldn't want a computer nursing my child or mothering my child. But as a mom, could I make money on some of these things?
You absolutely can. There are companies that do graphene research. It's called G Research. You can find it on the web anywhere.
Okay.
And these are companies that are in the prototype stage of developing products based on graphene. But you're looking at the redesign of airplanes because it's so light, a lot more fuel efficiency, the redesign of cars. This is one of the most exciting super materials that I've seen. And believe me, I read a lot of this stuff.
Well, it's very interesting, and I'm excited because we're going to be in the next bit here. We're going to be talking about health, wealth, and happiness.
Isn't that fun?
I love that.
Well, as folks, we go through the rubber meets the road news, right? Last week we did geopolitical, economic, and financial news. Today we're going to do health, wealth, and happiness, and we've worked hard to find news articles that actually relate to your health, wealth, and happiness. And don't forget, at the bottom of the hour, we have Carol's words of wisdom. This week is the B word. I won't say the B word. I probably shouldn't have said that. I'll say the letter B.
The letter B is good.
So that's exciting, though. We're excited to have that. And folks, we're happy to have you with us here on the Steve Beaman Show.
And now, back to the Steve Beaman Show with co-host Carol Parisi, taking you to where the rubber meets the road.
Welcome back, everyone, to this segment where we really do try to find news that matters to you, and we call it The Rubber Meets the Road.
Whoa.
Yeah, well, this is fun. And Carol, every week we try to find news that matters to people.
Yes, things that are going to affect your life and help to enhance and make your life better.
You mind if I go jump off script for a minute? We hear so much bad news on the radio, right?
All the time.
And so much on the TV. Everybody out there knows it. There's so much garbage being thrown at us. Some of it you got to know. But this segment is our chance to say maybe there's more to life. Maybe we can have news that actually helps.
I agree. News that helps and empowers us to give us information that we could use to make our lives better, easier.
You got it. Now, the first one, and I'm going to bring up because I really want your feedback on this. Everybody knows I'm an expert in finance. I've spent my life in it. I'm interested in the health stuff, and I've written articles about it, but I'm not an expert. You happen to be a certified herbalist.
Holistic health, forever.
The whole thing. And the first article we picked was on cherry juice or tart cherry juice because I'm addicted to the stuff.
Okay, addiction's not a good thing, but
I'm passionate about this
stuff. That's a good word. And Steve, it's been said if we don't have our health, you can have $1 million, but if you don't have that number one thing, your health, you're really kind of bankrupt. So health is very important. What have you noticed about you taking this cherry juice?
I'm walking through the Jewel food store 4 weeks ago, and I look over in the herb or the organic section with my daughter, and I see this thing sitting there, and it says, "Take the cherry juice challenge." So my natural personality is, it's a challenge, I'll do it, right? So it said, take 8 ounces a day for 7 days and tell us if you don't feel better. I started drinking this 3 days into it. I had more energy. I was sleeping better. I'm telling you, it really physically did. And so I'm asking you as a certified herbalist, what in the world's going on?
Well, there's an article from WFMZ.com on this cherry juice, and it's tart cherry juice. And it's amazing because it helps inflammation. It is as strong as 800 milligrams of ibuprofen.
Seriously.
But the greatest thing of this is it's not going to impair any of your other bodily organs. Every time you take an ibuprofen, that has to be processed through your liver and your kidneys. This is food, so your body knows what to do with it. So subsequently, it's going to be better for you and healthier. You're sleeping better. There are melatonin regulators in this.
Seriously, so there's real science behind why I feel better.
There's science behind this, yes.
Folks, I'll tell you, I just got back from a trip in Boston picking up my son over the weekend. I'm drinking this stuff on the way to Boston, which normally a 20-hour drive, I have to pull over and sleep some. I didn't have to.
You just kept going.
I kept going, and I'm telling you, it works. So anyway, I'm a big fan.
And another thing is, it's not like caffeine. Caffeine has a propensity to be an adrenal drainer.
And you crash.
And this actually can help nourish your adrenal glands. But anyway, so we got our health. So we got our number one thing done. What about wealth, Steve? What do we have to talk about wealth? What is the true meaning of wealth here for Mother's Day?
Yeah, this was an article you found I thought was interesting because it talks about the importance of women in financial planning.
Womensagenda.com is where this article is from.
Well, and what's so fascinating, we know women are in transition frequently. They go through divorce. They go through, sadly, widows or becoming widows, or their kids leave home and they're empty nesters.
Empty nesters.
And in a culture that really hasn't raised them to be financially on top of things. Often their husbands did it or their dads or somebody.
A lot of women just don't want to. We abdicate that position. Women, it's true, women make their financial decisions more emotionally.
Well, and so this article kind of hit us, and it was like, it's Mother's Day. We want to bring up something for moms. And I guess the bottom line is women are every bit as intelligent as men. That's not an issue. The resource has to be provided to them to help them learn. And so we have a listener who wrote us, so we're going to give a copy of The Path to Prosperity, which we'll talk about more when we do that.
Right.
But I think for women out there in transition, they need a friend in finance. And that's our sponsor, the Society to Advance Financial Education, which is a not-for-profit, exists to teach people about what they need to know on money.
Well, it's a very interesting thing. I personally, I can earn money. I could put money in a bank, but as far as investing goes, I mean, I invest in shoes. I guess that's non-performing asset though, right?
Well, we've talked about your, and again, I think last week I negated to put the shoes up on the
Those were
video.
cute shoes.
They were, well, I've still got the picture. I may put them up.
Those shoes
this week,
are so cute.
Maybe
But
I'll do
anyway,
2 weeks running. So
anyway, the bottom line with this article, to
Yeah.
get back to the article here on womensagenda.com, says that women should seek financial help through an advisor. They would be
should.
best served by that.
But you have to know which advisor to select. In fact, we talked next week on the program. We're going to be talking about which advisor.
You know what? Hugs are good. It also says limit alcohol and smoking.
Oh, now come on.
Well, hey, I'm just saying
All
what
right,
it
it's
says.
a family show. We are in the studios of AM 1160, so we probably don't want to go too far down that path.
But you know what? There are good positive choices we can make. And I'll tell you personally, every morning before I get out of bed, I lay in my bed and I have my little dogs next to me and my husband. And I just say, God, thank you for letting me open my eyes another day. You know, we don't appreciate, our eyes can see. Could you imagine not being able to see? I mean, so I say thank you for giving me eyes to see and ears to hear.
Thing, right?
It's a little thing and we take for granted. But if we lost our vision and our sight, it wouldn't be such a little thing anymore. So I try and be grateful. And I've been doing this for a couple of years now. Before I put my feet out of bed in the morning, I just say thank you, God. And I thank God for the smallest things like that.
I'm going to share something really personal.
Okay.
Before we do the show, we do talk about what we're going to talk about. And again, we're private here. Nobody's listening, right? But I was talking about, and Carol and I both get passionate about things. And sometimes it's hard because we want to go on and on and on.
A little bit.
When you're talking about that, Carol, I'm sitting here entranced by it. I didn't want you to stop.
It was coming from my heart.
I know
mean,
it was. And that is so cool because that's got to come from your heart.
Well, you know what I've done? I've done this with some of my coaching clients where I say, you know what, I'm going to give you a weekly challenge. I'm going to give you a weekly challenge this week,
Well,
Steve.
funny thing, I'll probably take it.
How about every morning or some point of the day, and I bet you do anyway, but you do the gratitude thing. You have a lot to be grateful for. You've got a brain that I can't even imagine. You've got one of those memories that you could remember everything. What do they call that? They have a name for it.
I do not have a photographic
Yes,
memory.
I think you do. You study something once and you reverb it back to me. It's amazing.
All right, I got a challenge that we're going to regret I said.
Okay.
This is a great program to start your week off right?
Absolutely.
What if you and I do something every morning for people who go to stevebeamanshow.com or our Facebook page, and we give them just 5 minutes of Carol and Steve
We
to
should
start the
do
day?
something every day, even if it's a little positive quote or a
Yep.
Carol Steve talk a minute. I think that would be fun.
You know, if we do that, folks, you're going to hear a little less sound quality because I'll be doing it remotely, likely from my iPhone. But I think we might do that because I think that's important. It's touching the people that we want to touch so bad.
Friends, if you want us to do this too, if you have any ideas or suggestions, email us. Carol at stevebeamanshow.com or Steve at stevebeamanshow.com. We are friends. We want to serve you.
I love the idea. I think it's really cool because we talked about our closing segment last week about how we just don't want it to stop. And we don't.
And we got to stop now.
I know. So, folks, when we come back, though, and this is exciting again,
We'll be right back.
Well, no, we're going to come back for you, though, because at the bottom of the hour, we get Carol's ABCs of Wisdom. And, folks, you don't want to miss
It's
this.
the B word.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Steve Beaman Show. We are at that point in the show that I really do enjoy because, as I said, Carol has been a friend of mine for a long time and keeps this wonderful notebook of important letters and words tied to them. To this week's letter is the letter B, and so, Carol, I gladly turn it over to you.
Well, Steve, thank you. And yes, the letter B, as in Beaman, but that's not the word. It's not Beaman this week.
We're not going to Beamanize everybody.
We're not going to. Well, we are kind of Beaman. I like it. It's pretty cool. This week's word is belief. Like last week, our word was attitude, and we also said last week, whatever a mind can conceive and believe, a mind can achieve. So you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in something you hold true in your heart, in your reality, deeply embedded. That is in your subconscious mind. And that really is a key to your behavior and your actions, your mindset, and your belief in something. Here's the thing. It's Mother's Day today. I always believed I'd be a mom. And I went through a couple miscarriages and things before I actually had my son. And it started getting tough because I was 36 years old, advanced maternal age, right? But I kept believing that I could do it. And I was a great mom to a baby and I'm still a good mom to my kid. But belief is important. How do you believe in, you start a business? Belief is a key component into entrepreneurship. If you don't believe in your product, believe in yourself, you're not going to be able to do it. So belief is one of those fundamental principles, and it's a foundational principle for everything else that we do. You know that. I know you know that.
As you believe, so shall you be.
Well, yeah, as a man, believeth, thinketh in his heart, so is he. But that's your belief.
That's right. And it does bring in a spiritual purpose, too, because belief and faith tie so closely together. And in the 5 paths that you and I talk about so often, and we'll talk about on the show, the spiritual side, we don't want to get into preaching which spiritual faith you ought to have. I happen to be a devout Christian, and I know you are.
Yes.
But faith and belief in a higher power is absolutely critical to a sound and happy life.
Absolutely. And we could talk about this for 5 hours.
Yeah, we have to be careful here, folks. We don't have all night with you. I wish we did.
Yes, indeed. But now, Steve, we did get some listener mail. And why don't you read us what Quincy wrote you?
I was really happy about this. We had a gentleman named Quincy Wright, and he told us he's a 40-year-old guy, and he's looking now toward planning retirement. And I hope if you see us on the video, there's a wave to you. But I hope you're listening, Quincy, because you asked for a copy of The American Dream Under Fire, which we are going to send you. But because you wrote and were so gracious about it, I also want to send a copy of the Path to Prosperity audio library.
Steve, this is amazing. This is amazing. It talks about college funding programs. Can folks of a certain age depend on government, Social Security, and Medicaid, stocks, bonds, commodities, ETFs, other synthetic products, U.S. versus international. I mean, this, and it keeps going. This is priceless. This is a great gift. That's very generous of you.
I think it's generous of us, Carol, on the show because we want to help. And Quincy was so gracious to write in. So as you're listening tonight, just send Carol at Steve Beaman Show another note, and we'll make sure to get your address so we can send that out to you right away. But
yes, please.
We were so happy about that.
That's wonderful. Now, Steve, what else? You were talking about Mark. Mark was asking about sales.
This was interesting. We brought up that I have a small business background, and I do. I've been in sales and in small business all my life. And so I got a note, and it was saying, could you give me guidance? I'm starting out in the world. I'm kind of looking at what I should do. Is there a book that you would recommend? And it was kind of interesting because it's totally by coincidence. I used to work for a guy when I was at Wharton Econometrics, and he's a good friend of mine. He just wrote a book called Selling is Everything.
Selling is everything.
Totally coincidental.
Wow.
So Mark, I would say if you write to me at steve@stevebeamanshow.com, I'm going to send you a complimentary copy of Selling is Everything by my old boss, Jeff Tannum.
I would love a copy. How to communicate and relate to anyone and sell anything. But we are always selling ourselves.
That's the premise of the book, is we forget that selling is the key of any relationship. It's the key. And it's not a negative. It's a reality.
Some people are scared to death of sales. You know who the best salespeople are? Our kids.
Oh, I know. They're fabulous.
Right.
Daddy, may I please?
They're tenacious. You know what? We could learn from them. We could learn sales skills from our kids.
They sound like Donald Trump. Sorry. Oops. I know it. But I think it's interesting. And again, it gets to the core of the show that we're going to bring our backgrounds into this. And we both have backgrounds in business. We both have background in selling and raising families. So we've got a lot of life skills that we're going to be preaching. And I just think it's really cool that Jeff happened to write this book. So I was glad to put a plug in for it. I think it's a great book.
Well, you know what? And in sales, belief is a huge thing, because especially when you do cold calling, you got to believe that person on the other end of that phone is going to benefit from what you are sharing and selling with them.
Carol, we're going to have one of those things where I could go on all night again. Someone once said to me why I've sold so much in my life, and it's because I believed in what I was selling. I literally thought, if you buy this service product, I'll change your life.
You know something? I have sold cosmetics. I've sold herbs. I do not sell something I don't believe in, because it's unauthentic. You could see that. So I mean, we could help it. We should talk to him before.
I mean, this could be a whole day show, because it really is. If you're in small business, and if you're a mom that's starting a business and you're a little scared about that selling process, let us know. We'll be happy to help you.
Write us.
Okay, we're going to come back and we're going to be right into the Master Your Money segment, and we're talking about mutual funds versus exchange traded funds. Welcome to the complexities of life. We'll be right back here on the Steve Beaman Show.
Now, back to the Steve Beaman Show for insight on your money and the nation's financial future.
Welcome back, everybody, as we go into our segment to help you master your money. And Carol, we are into the weeds on this one, aren't we?
Well, Steve, last week, Susan D. sent a text message to me saying,
Really?
Yes. And I don't have my text because it's crazy, but I'm going to give you the rough draft. She said, I listened to the show this week. It was great. She called
John Grebe?
John Grebe and Associates.
Really, folks, he sponsors this segment, so this was a really nice piece of communication to have.
And hi, Susan D. And Susan said she called Grebe, got back with her immediately. A long-term problem was solved by that phone call.
That is why we have him as a sponsor. And I don't want to go down this path too much, but don't forget you can call John directly at 630-653-3510, 653-3510. And John Grebe has been a friend. He's a terrific accountant. If you have complex tax questions like Susan did, feel free to give him a call. Tell him you're a friend of the show, and I'm sure he'll treat you right.
Okay, now I have a question for you, Mr. Moneymaster. What are we hearing about Puerto Rico and debt? And can Puerto Rico use the Steve Beaman tactics from last week to pay off their debt?
We'll Beamanize Puerto Rico.
Well, that might be beneficial. Pay the smallest one off, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, we were talking before the show about what made you think of it, and it's because people are now equating Puerto Rico and Illinois.
Well, yes.
And there are some legal issues. We won't get into the muck on it. But yeah, I wrote an article on Epic Times about 2 months ago about Puerto Rico, because that country has done what so many countries do. They spend more than they make, and at some point you run out of other people's money. Greece did it. Now they've run out. So Puerto Rico is ready to try to do bankruptcy code.
Super Chapter 9. I mean, it sounds so ominous.
Well, a Chapter 9 is a municipality like Detroit.
Okay.
But the problem is Puerto Rico is kind of its own country.
Right.
And so they're trying to write bankruptcy laws. But yeah, could they get out of debt? Yes, but they'd have to be honest with the population there. Just like in Illinois, people better get honesty out of government, and that's hard to get.
Well, that's pretty scary. And your article on Puerto Rico is on Epic Times,
Yeah, it's up
correct?
on Epic Times.
Okay, now, ETFs, exchange-traded funds, mutual funds, I've heard of them.
Okay.
What are they?
Let's
really?
go into the bottom line of investing. One of the things you want to watch out when you invest money is taxes and costs. You want low cost and controllable taxes. The problem with the mutual fund, and I know that the mutual fund store is a program, I'm not against using mutual funds in the right circumstance. I just think people need to understand this. A mutual fund is it's a trust created under 1940 Act that creates a commingled basket of funds that somebody manages. Okay, so you can go in and say, I'm going to hire an S&P 500 manager. They're going to manage that money to that benchmark and charge you for it.
Now, is this one of your financial advisors? Would be like no?
These typically are big mutual fund houses like Fidelity or Putnam.
Okay.
So the good news is you get diversification in the fund. You don't just buy one stock.
Okay.
The problem with mutual funds is two things. They have very high costs typically because there's a lot of infrastructure. And secondly, there is a Well, there are three things, I guess. There's a lack of liquidity because a mutual fund doesn't get priced until the end of the day.
What do you mean there's a lack of liquidity?
If you want to sell your mutual fund at 1 p.m, you sell it based on yesterday's closing price.
Even if today's is higher and I'm selling it
Yep,
today?
you sell it at yesterday's closing price. An exchange-traded fund, when it was created by some friends of mine.
You said it was created right here
In Wheaton, and it was some friends. And it changes the dynamic of that. An exchange-traded fund trades like a stock. So it's priced in real time throughout the day. So you have a real-time pricing of an exchange-traded fund versus the prior day's closing price.
This is all too in the Path to Prosperity. You have a
in the
whole
second
segment.
volume, there's one of the lessons is all this stuff.
Are we going to be able to see this information anywhere?
The Path to Prosperity is up on stevebeamanshow.com, and so people can get the lessons. But continuing, that third issue is more complicated. I'm sorry to get into the weeds, but you kind of have to. In a mutual fund, you can get what's called a phantom tax. The mutual fund, during the course of the year, buys and sells stocks or bonds or securities within the fund.
Okay.
When they do that, because they're selling, they trigger a tax event. So if you buy into a mutual fund in December, you didn't participate from January through December, but you may get a tax allocation of trades they made in that period when the year closes.
So you're subject to all the money the mutual fund has made for the whole year?
It's a little more complicated than that, but yes, in principle, it's called a phantom tax. Where an exchange-traded fund, because it trades like a stock, you can control the tax. You can either hold it long-term or short-term, and you can get it right when you want it.
Well, we were talking about capital gains and capital. I mean, so there are ways that people can go ahead and manage their funds to benefit them in a tax basis. Now, Grebe and Associates would be the people to talk to.
They could help, and most advisors know this stuff, but it is something that they literally popped up out of nowhere in about the year 2000, and they've changed the nature of investing. They're very low cost, and they're very effective ways to buy indexes.
But I probably need tens of thousands of dollars, right, to
Actually
invest
not.
in this?
You can buy an ETF at the cost of a stock, where a mutual fund might take $1,000 minimum. An ETF trades like a stock, so it might trade at $10 a share. You can buy one share.
So you mean to tell me if I had $100 that I didn't want to buy shoes with, I could go ahead and buy an ETF?
We're talking in fantasy land now.
What do you mean in fantasy land?
$100 that you wouldn't want to buy shoes.
Well, I mean, maybe I could make more money and then buy more shoes later.
I start laughing at the rest of the
Okay,
program.
we've got a thing with the shoes. I know.
But we got to stay with ETFs is where we are.
Seriously, I could take $100, allocate that, and buy an ETF.
Yeah, easily. And it's a nice liquid thing. So if you want to start playing in investing and you want to start learning how the markets work, ETFs are a fabulous way to do it. Again, not disparaging mutual funds, but I think ETFs have a place in people's portfolios.
And if folks join the Society to Advance Financial Education, they could help them navigate through that too, right?
They can do that, or they can write me at stevebeamanshow.com. We are going to come back, folks, with our final closing and setup. And I'll tell you don't want to miss this because we've got a pre-look at next week's program. And when you hear what we're doing next week for you, we think you'll be very excited. So thanks for joining us on The Steve Beaman Show.
Welcome back to the Steve Beaman Show right here on AM 560. The Answer. This is Carol Parisi, and the proud co-host of Steve Beaman. Steve, real quick, I did want to mention, I did find something. Susan D. Did say, one more headache behind me with Grebe.
That's big because he's a good sponsor of the show. And I'll tell you, folks, if you need him, call him at 630-653-3510. There's an additional plug.
Yep. Now, Steve, I got a question for you. How many millionaires does the Society to Advance Financial Education SAFE want to make?
The goal of
make?
the society is to make 75,000 millionaires over the next many years. And we do that through education, and then implementation.
Education, and then implementation. Yep. And belief.
It's all part of education. The more you know, the more you can believe.
Well, now, Steve, that is a worthy goal.
I think it is. I think the society is cool, but I think if we can just help people understand what they need to know.
But it's more than about money. The society also wants to implement the 5 paths.
It's about true wealth.
And there, you know what? There is a difference between monetary wealth and real wealth.
You got it. You got it.
And this Mother's Day, my wealth is my son. So thank you, Michael. I love you. And thank you, Mom and Grandma, too.
Well, on this program, we've had a chance to go down a lot of different things. We covered the graphene issue. We covered the digital currencies we thought was interesting.
Graphene, it's the technology of tomorrow, right?
That's right.
And now the digital technology,
we talked about Bitcoin and how that could affect us. We then went into the rubber meets your road, and we talked about tart cherry juice, which you thankfully had some facts on.
That's amazing. 800 milligrams equal to 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. Save your liver, save your kidneys. That's a great thing, too.
And then wealth and happiness. I mean, what more could you ask for in an hour program?
Right. Well, the true wealth, making your wealth grow and getting an advisor. And next week, you're going to talk about how to choose an advisor.
Yeah, in
right?
the Master Your Money component next week, you don't want to miss this because we're going to have this segment devoted to how to select an advisor. It's a big deal.
Right. And back to your rubber meets the road, happiness. And those keys to happiness. And I would say gratitude is
I thought that
big
was
one.
great. And then, of course, at the bottom of the hour, we had belief as our word, starting with the letter B. And what a wonderful segment that was. And next week, we're on the letter C. So we'll let everybody think about what that word might be.
The C.
You told me not to say
C. I didn't say that. It's the C principle from Carol. Carol,
Okay.
C.
I got
This is B, Beaman? No,
Okay.
it was belief.
Yeah, if we did that, everybody'd hang up on us.
Oh, gosh, this is the fastest hour show, I swear.
It's funny, when we ended this last week, I think a lot of people had the same feeling we did, that we wish we didn't have to go.
Well, I want to thank you for starting your week off here with the Steve Beaman Show.
Isn't that fun? It's a chance for everybody to kind of start their week on a moment of good news and a little bit of upliftment instead of all the junk you hear every day.
Well, and I think we're going to do some daily stuff on our Facebook page, right? So they could start their day off the right way. Start your day off the Beaman way. How does that sound?
That's actually creative. But I think if you want us to do that, let us know, by the way. Write us at carol@stevebeamanshow.com or steve@stevebeamanshow.com, or visit us on Facebook. We're at the Steve Beaman Show on Facebook. Become a fan. Tell your friends to do it. Let us know. If you'd like a 5-minute visit with Carol and Steve every day, let us know. We are devoted to you, and I know we'd be happy to do it.
Be part of that 75,000 millionaire group.
Well, it's not bad. And again, wealth is a holistic concept. So let's bring everybody home, right?
Absolutely.
I do want to spend a minute thanking our sponsors, John Grebe, who without their support, we'd never be able to do this. John is a good friend. He's an accountant. He's a specialist. Also, the Society to Advance Financial Education. I want to thank our producer, Jim Thompson. Jim, thank you for all the work you do. And Paula Peterson, who's our good friend here at AM 560, for the work she's done to help us put all this together.
Absolutely.
We are looking forward to next week, and as every week, this is a tough time to say goodbye. I wish we had a much longer program.
Happy Mother's Day.
A very happy Mother's Day to everyone. I hope you enjoyed the National Day of Prayer last Thursday. And in the week ahead, be blessed, and we'll see you next Sunday night at 8 o'clock here on AM 560, The Answer.